That bottle in your reservoir is either protecting your ability to stop a 2-ton car at 60 miles an hour, or it is quietly failing at that job. STP, Lucas Oil, and Peak, 3 of the most grabbed bottles at Walmart and AutoZone, are on this avoid list. The right fluid costs under $20 more per year than the wrong one. The wrong one costs you a $2,400 ABS modulator and a pedal that goes soft at the worst possible moment. The #1 worst fluid comes from a brand this community trusts completely. That trust is exactly the problem. STP Heavy Duty DOT3. This is the bottle sitting at eye level at virtually every gas station and convenience store in the country. Small, cheap, and right there. When you are topping off during a road trip or noticing the reservoir is low. STP has been around for decades. The name feels trustworthy, and at under $4, it is an easy grab. Here is what STP actually tells you on the label about their DOT3 brake fluid. It meets SAE specification J1703 and exceeds Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard 116. That sounds reassuring until you understand what that actually means. The DOT3 federal minimum requires a dry boiling point of 401 degrees Fahrenheit and a wet boiling point of 284 degrees Fahrenheit. Exceeding those standards takes almost nothing. Any brake fluid on the market does it. STP does not publish a wet boiling point significantly above that floor because there is no significant margin to advertise. The wet boiling point is the number that actually matters. Brake fluid absorbs moisture from the air through your reservoir cap, through your rubber brake lines, through every small imperfection in the system at a rate of roughly 2% of its volume per year. After 2 years of normal use, the wet boiling point is the temperature your fluid is actually working at. At 284 degrees, which is where STP sits, that means almost zero cushion before the fluid hits its limit under hard braking, heavy towing, or a long mountain descent. Marcus Webb, an ASE master technician in Memphis, Tennessee with 14,000 brake services over 22 years, says STP DOT3 is the fluid he sees most often tied to a soft pedal complaint with no obvious mechanical cause. At the 2-year mark, that fluid is sitting right at its limit. You get a long descent or a panic stop from highway speed, and you find out very fast there was no margin left. David Larkin from Asheville, North Carolina watched the pedal go to the floor on his 2017 Toyota Highlander during a mountain descent. He paid $29,400 for it 2 years earlier. The Highlander had been topped off 3 months earlier at a gas station with STP DOT3 and had never been flushed in 3 years of ownership. New calipers on 2 corners, full flush, brake line inspection. Total $1,920. At $8 per bottle, that is $240 per year before the repair arrived. The brand most people would never put on an avoid list is number 4, Prestone DOT3 Regular Formula. Prestone is a household name. Their antifreeze is solid, their washer fluid is everywhere. When people see the Prestone label on a bottle of brake fluid, they assume that same quality standard applies, and for their max formula, it does. But the regular Prestone DOT3, the cheaper 32-ounce bottle that consistently outsells everything next to it on the shelf, has a very specific problem. Prestone's own label for the regular DOT3 formula states a minimum wet boiling point of 284 degrees Fahrenheit. That is not a number they landed above. That is the DOT3 federal floor. Verbatim. And while Prestone's marketing says the fluid exceeds government standards, it is the dry boiling point where they added margin, not the wet. The dry boiling point is fresh fluid right out of a sealed bottle. Nobody's brakes are running on fresh fluid. By the time your fluid has been in the system for 12 months, the number that matters is wet. And at 284 degrees, you are sitting at the minimum the government decided was legal in 1971. There is a second issue that showed up in documented user testing. Multiple forum members who ran refractometer tests on sealed new bottles of regular Prestone DOT3 found moisture content already reading between 3 and 4% straight out of the bottle before the cap was broken. At that moisture level, the fluid is already working at a degraded boiling point before it touches your system. Christina Torres, a brake systems specialist in Phoenix, Arizona, who manages fleet maintenance for over 200 commercial trucks, tests fluid on every intake inspection. I have had 5 vehicles in a single week where the regular Prestone was already reading degraded on arrival, right out of a sealed bottle bought 3 months earlier. The shelf storage and the formula's additive reserve are doing the job before you open it. James Hutchinson from Dallas, Texas topped off his 2018 Honda Accord, bought for $24,100 with regular Prestone DOT3 before a road trip, drove 1,100 miles without issue, then 4 months later came to rest 12 feet into an intersection on a wet morning when the pedal went long during an emergency stop. Full brake flush and front caliper rebuild, $840. At $9 a bottle, that is $105 per year before the bill arrived. The Prestone Max formula is a different product with a higher specification. It costs more. It is the right choice if Prestone is your brand. The regular bottle next to it is not. Number 3 on this list fools the most careful drivers. People who read labels. People who think a higher DOT number means better protection. It does not. And the repair starts at $1,400. DOT5 silicone fluid, including Stay Lube, and STP DOT5. This is the number confusion that damages brake systems. DOT5 sounds like an upgrade from DOT3 and DOT4. Higher number, better fluid. That logic works for octane ratings. It does not work for brake fluid, and the reason matters for every car built after the mid-1980s. DOT3, DOT4, and DOT5.1 are all glycol-based fluids. They are chemically compatible with each other and with the rubber seals, ABS modulator valves, and caliper pistons in modern brake systems. DOT5 silicone is a completely different chemistry. It does not absorb moisture. It does not mix with glycol fluid. And according to Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards documentation, DOT5 brake fluid is not compatible with anti-lock braking systems. ABS works by rapidly pulsing brake pressure in cycles that happen dozens of times per second. Silicone fluid aerates under that cycling. Tiny air bubbles form and stay trapped inside the fluid because silicone does not suspend them the way glycol does. Air is compressible. Brake fluid is not supposed to be. When silicone DOT5 makes contact with old glycol fluid already sitting in the lines, the two fluids interact to form a gel-like residue that clogs the metering orifices in your ABS modulator. A full modulator replacement runs between $1,400 and $2,400 on most vehicles. Robert Finley, an ASEL-1 advanced brake and hydraulics specialist in Atlanta, Georgia, with 18 years diagnosing ABS failures, says DOT5 confusion is the most preventable and most expensive mistake he sees. By the time the customer gets to me, the silicone has already gelled with the glycol in the ABS modulator. We are pulling it out and replacing it. There is no procedure that restores the orifice tolerances once that gel sets. Karen Whitfield from Denver, Colorado assumed DOT5 was an upgrade for her 2014 Subaru Outback, which she had paid $26,800 for used during a DIY top-off. 8 months later, her ABS light came on. Gelled residue in 2 modulator solenoid passages, contaminated master cylinder. Repair, $1,680. At $14 a bottle and $1,680 to fix what it did, that fluid cost Karen more than she would have paid for 4 years of proper brake service on schedule. The Sta Lube bottle that caused it cost $14. DOT5 silicone has one legitimate use case: classic vehicles and long-term storage vehicles where non-absorbency is the point. Every car built after 1990 with ABS is not that vehicle. Before we get to the 2 that will genuinely surprise you, subscribe right now. The number 1 worst brake fluid on this list is from a brand this community trusts more than almost anything else in the automotive aisle. The reason it fails is exactly what makes you trust it. That is coming up next. Number 2 on this list is at AutoZone, O'Reilly, and Advance Auto. It has a DOT4 rating on the label. That rating is accurate for the first 12 months. After that, it absorbs moisture faster than the DOT3 it claims to surpass. By year 2, the effective boiling point is lower than when you started. Peak DOT 3/4 brake fluid. Peak is available at AutoZone, O'Reilly, Advance Auto, and a long list of regional chains. Their antifreeze products are legitimate. Their brake fluid is, like STP, engineered to meet the minimum specification without meaningful reserve above it. Peak DOT 3/4 fluid, the version most commonly purchased because it is labeled compatible with both ratings, does not publish a wet boiling point with real margin above the floor. The DOT4 label suggests a higher specification, and technically a DOT3/4 compatible fluid must meet the DOT4 dry boiling point, minimum of 446 degrees Fahrenheit. That sounds better, but the wet boiling point minimum for DOT4 is 311 degrees, and Peak's formula is built to meet those minimums without the reserve chemistry that extends effective service life. Here's the real problem with minimum spec DOT4 fluid. DOT4 absorbs moisture faster than DOT3 because its borate ester chemistry, which is what raises the boiling point, is also more hygroscopic. A DOT4 fluid with no reserve chemistry drops its wet boiling point more aggressively than a good DOT3 sitting in the same system for the same amount of time. You get 1 year of slightly better heat protection, and then the faster moisture absorption catches up. The effective boiling point falls below where you started. Paul Nakamura manages a 210 vehicle commercial fleet in Chicago, Illinois, and has tested brake fluid at every service interval for 14 years. He pulled peak DOT 3/4 from 2 trucks after both showed degraded readings at 14 months, 10 months ahead of the 2-year interval. The DOT4 spec got them in the door. The formula didn't hold it. The fluid was done before we expected it. Sandra Cole from Kansas City, Missouri drives a 2016 Jeep Cherokee she bought for $19,500. She put peak DOT 3/4 in it specifically for the DOT4 rating, left it in for 2 years, and at month 22, her mechanic found an effective boiling point of 283 degrees Fahrenheit, 1 degree below the DOT3 minimum, after she paid specifically for DOT4 protection, full flush and front caliper replacement, $960. At $8 a bottle, that is $120 per year before the bill arrived. For flat road daily driving, this rarely matters. A loaded vehicle, a mountain descent, or a hard stop from highway speed is where the margin between 311 and 280 degrees becomes the margin between a firm pedal and a terrifying one. The #1 brand on this list is going to frustrate people because it has genuinely earned its trust across everything else it makes. And that reputation is exactly the reason this product is the most dangerous one on the list. Lucas Oil Brake Fluid. Lucas Oil has one of the strongest reputations in automotive products. Their oil stabilizers work, their transmission treatment works, their brand has been built on products that genuinely outperform the competition, and that reputation carries across everything they make in the minds of loyal customers. Their brake fluid does not share those attributes. Lucas Oil DOT3 brake fluid meets the SAE J1703 specification and the federal FMVSS 116 standard, which means it arrives at the minimum. Lucas does not publish a wet boiling point above the DOT3 floor of 284 degrees on their brake fluid product sheets. Their marketing focuses on corrosion protection and compatibility, which are real attributes, but they are not the primary failure mode of brake fluid. The primary failure mode is boiling under hard use. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, an automotive fluid analyst in Houston, Texas, with 400+ brake fluid sample evaluations across 11 years, tested 3 production batches of Lucas Oil DOT3 across different lot numbers. Every sample arrived within 3 degrees of the DOT3 wet minimum. There is no reserve here. This product is built to pass the specification, not hold margin above it. At 18 months in a real system, you are at or below your effective protection threshold. The name does not change what the chemistry does. Brian Mercado, 27 years running an independent shop in San Diego with over 19,000 vehicles serviced, says Lucas brake fluid produces a specific pattern. The people running Lucas are not the ones who ignore maintenance. They trust the brand and space out the interval because they think they are doing the right thing. I have had customers running it 4 years without a flush, completely confident. That is a 284-degree fluid for 4 years. That is the system I work on. Gary Thompson from Nashville, Tennessee had been running Lucas brake fluid in his 2019 Ford F-150, which he paid $38,200 for new for 38 months when his mechanic caught it on a routine oil change. Over 4% moisture, early caliper corrosion on both rear corners, flush and rebuild, $1,140. At $12 a bottle, that is $143 per year before the repair arrived. Michelle Park from Seattle, Washington drives a 2021 Honda CR-V she paid $31,900 for with Lucas products across the board. On a rainy Tuesday morning, she applied full brake pressure from 45 miles per hour and the pedal went to 60% of normal travel before stopping. The CR-V made contact with the car in front. Nobody injured. Fluid in the system 28 months, effective boiling point 279 degrees, 1 degree below the DOT3 minimum on a DOT3 vehicle. Full rebuild, $1,290. At $12 a bottle, that is $150 per year. The Lucas brand earned its reputation, just not on this product. One rule that applies to every fluid on this list and every fluid coming next. Brake fluid starts absorbing moisture the moment the container is opened. Always use a fresh sealed bottle for every flush. Never pour from something that has been sitting in your garage half used. Here is what actually belongs in your reservoir. Valvoline SynPower DOT3/4. This is the best widely available value on the brake fluid shelf. Valvoline SynPower publishes a dry boiling point of 500 degrees Fahrenheit and a wet boiling point of 329 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 45 degrees above the DOT3 wet minimum and 18 degrees above the DOT4 wet floor. That is a real number, with a real gap between it and the brands on the avoid list. The additive package provides genuine corrosion protection for steel, aluminum, copper, and rubber components across the brake system. ABS modulator seals, caliper pistons, and master cylinder internals all benefit from a fluid that maintains its inhibitor chemistry across the full 2-year service interval, rather than depleting before the interval ends. At roughly $12 per bottle at AutoZone, O'Reilly, and most Walmart locations, the difference between Valvoline SynPower and STP or Peak is approximately $4 per year. That $4 buys 45 degrees of wet boiling point cushion above the government floor. Best for any vehicle specifying DOT3 or DOT4, daily drivers in moderate climates, and anyone who wants a reliable, widely available fluid without ordering online or visiting a specialty retailer. If you want that interval extended and the margin pushed further, the next one changes the math on how often you actually need to flush. Bosch ESI6. ESI stands for Extended Service Interval. Bosch ESI6 is compatible with vehicles specifying DOT3, DOT4, or DOT5.1, making it the most universally applicable quality fluid available at retail. Its dry boiling point is 518 degrees Fahrenheit. Its wet boiling point is 365 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 81 degrees above the DOT3 wet minimum and 54 degrees above the DOT4 floor. Bosch specifies a 3-year change interval for ESI6 compared to 2 years for standard DOT4. That extra year of certified protection costs approximately $4 more per bottle than Valvoline SynPower. Extended against the cost of a single brake caliper rebuild, that difference is not a financial question. It is an arithmetic one. For drivers in humid climates or anyone not going to follow a strict 2-year flush schedule, ESI6 provides a documented buffer that minimum spec fluids cannot match. One bottle compatible with nearly every vehicle on the road, lasting longer and protecting better than anything in the same price range. Best for drivers in humid climates, anyone on a 3-year vehicle service schedule, and any vehicle accepting DOT3, DOT4, or DOT5.1, Castrol DOT4 LMA or ATETYP 200. And these two are the correct answer for any vehicle specifying DOT4, which includes the majority of European vehicles and most Japanese cars built after 2010. Castrol DOT4 LMA stands for low moisture activity. It is formulated to resist moisture uptake more aggressively than standard DOT4, directly addressing the one factor that degrades brake fluid faster than anything else in daily driving. Its additive chemistry specifically targets the corrosion of ABS modulator valve materials, which operate at tighter tolerances than standard brake components. ATETYP 200 is the fluid most professional mechanics reach for when they actually care about the answer. Its wet boiling point is 389 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 78 degrees of margin above the DOT4 wet minimum of 311 degrees. Every brand on the avoid list has 0 degrees of margin above the floor. ATETYP 200 also comes in a metal tin that prevents moisture intrusion during storage, which no plastic bottle can claim. Best for any European vehicle, any Japanese vehicle built after 2010 specifying DOT4, and any driver who wants to maintain their brake system at the standard the engineers who designed it intended. The decision is simple. DOT3 vehicle, use Valvoline SynPower. DOT4 vehicle, use Castrol LMA or ATETYP 200. Want one fluid that covers nearly everything and buys you an extra year between changes? Use Bosch ESI6. Everything else on the shelf is a brand name on a bottle that meets the minimum the government set in 1971. Now I want to hear from you. What fluid is in your reservoir right now, and when did you last flush it? Drop the brand name and the year of your vehicle in the comments. If you are running anything from the avoid list, tell me how long it has been in there. Next video, I am testing 5 brake pad brands under identical emergency stop conditions. 3 of them extended stopping distance by over 40 feet at 60 miles an hour. That is the difference between a near miss and a collision. Subscribe so you do not miss it.